Apparently the Crown of Wills could have been Tyrion 2.0.
This is more or less the same thought. Similar idea, not of just...
No, the Crown of Wills?
Yeah.
Fair game. That shit's lame as...
Yep. So this was I was reading, as I tend to do for stream content, I was reading through Warcraft lore, and boys, you really need to step your game up. It's getting a bit dry over there. But anyway, there was just one post, and it was literally just a rant of someone going, here's how the Crown of Wills is pointless. It's not actually used in any capacity. What's this shit about defending us? That doesn't make any sense. It's not used. And ultimately ended up in... So my question is, what the fuck was any of that crown stuff even about? And we're like, that's a good point. Because what actually happened was... The Crown of Wills protected us. We went to fight the jailer, and we were supposed to be not fully protected from domination, but defended from it. And then we got dominated a whole load of times during the fight, and that was like a core fight mechanic.
How did the Crown of Will... Because it's not like we were really carrying it around with us.
No, the point, you see that whole big glowy shit, that's what happened.
I guess
when we were there, the Primus was anointing us with Crown of Wills, yellow goo that disappeared. And that protected us from domination, right? But who cares? No one felt that.
No.
That was just, you've got the MacGuffin in a quest, and now you can go fight the big bad guy. And that was just pointless. We didn't feel it in any capacity.
No.
The effect was unclear because we were dominated anyway. And what actually happened in the fight was, I can't remember the phase numbers. In the phase 3 transition, whenever he does his equivalent of enough. He gets the pillar, connects it to Azeroth's connection. And he's just like, enough. And he monologues.
Phase 2 is over.
Yeah, for countless eons I've plotted and waited. And he goes through all of that, and then we're all stunned for a couple seconds. And the thing that actually wakes us up, and because you're playing World of Warcraft fully zoomed out and you're probably not paying too much attention, and also you're stunned for a couple seconds, so you're probably staring at your keyboard hammering it, or going, fuck, what's happening? Or looking at the fight guide for the next phase. Anyway, you want to do that. Also, I did just give away where my second monitor is this direction, but it's like, it was just fucking Azeroth again. It was literally a little particle effect of Azerite, flies off the thing in the middle, hits you, gives you the buff, and that's what breaks you free. But that doesn't seem super clear or anything. It's not really apparent. It's just kind of there. So, ultimately speaking, the Crown of Wills was fucking pointless. In terms of how we felt it, because Azeroth's the one that broke us free.
Yeah.
Didn't really say anything about it, but just broke us free. And that means the Crown of Wills felt utterly pointless, despite it being the MacGuffin we went so long to get, and was ultimately then being, here it is, you've taken the Helm of Domination, this fucking key item in World of Warcraft history, and you've turned it into a fucking, just a model we had lying around and no use for.
Tesco value tiara.
Yeah, Tesco value tiara. And now here it has to, here it solved the problem, but it didn't solve shit. It did, literally, because theoretically, as soon as we were in the Sepulchre, or not in the Sepulchre, sorry, we were in the jailer's room, he could have went, you're all dominated, fuckies, like happened at the end of Sanctum. But that wasn't super clear because he could do it to us anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's fucking terrible. And then the gears in my brain started thinking, I went, Lich King, jailer, big moment in fight that breaks us free of something and breaks us free of being dominated. Hey, that's Tyrion. Tyrion did that. He called upon the final blessing of the light, broke free of the ice with Ashbringer, broke Frostmourne, and stopped us being dominated. It would have been a super fucking cool callback for them to go, we have a Tyrion 2 moment. And who would be the Tyrion 2? Bolvar, of course. But this is the thing, right? Imagine if, I have it all written here. Oh, that's a very cool image, yeah. But I have it written here where it's literally just, we're afraid of his domination as we go in. We have those pillars to hide behind, because it's literally, if we line of sight, we get got at the end of this cast. That feels pretty good, especially if we know we're vulnerable to it. In the same way we know even the likes of Jaina, Bolvar, and Thrall were vulnerable to it. And we're basically just mooks compared to them. As the game reminds us consistently, even though we have to do their dirty work. So imagine, this all happening.
Dirty work and job most of the time.
Yeah, dirty work and most of their job and everything else. The only thing we don't get is to be in the cinematics, basically. That's about it. But imagine that, right? He connects the pillars, he starts to dominate Azeroth, and he gets us all because the pillars are gone. He goes, okay, fuck, I've won, fuck you. In the same way Arthas was like, I've won. You're mine now. And then we hear all of he's whispering to us the same way he did Arthas, same way he did Bolvar. So we actually feel what domination's like, as opposed to it happening in a cutscene or it happening in just you can't control your character, or you're fighting against someone else against your will. So obviously you don't do that in game. When you're mind controlled, you don't press any buttons. So imagine this just happening, and it's this all. It doesn't even need to be very long or very cinematic. It's just a thing that happens in the fight, because they get a lot of that anyway from what happens in the fight. And then the Primal shows up, fires a crown at Bolvar. Bolvar goes, "Oh fuck, right, let's go." Sticks it on, puts a cheesy line about how this shit. I've got one written here just for dramatic effect. "The future of the Shadowlands is not yours to take, Soval. From now on, our wills are ours and ours alone. We take our own steps, forge our own futures, free of your vile reign. For Azeroth." Something like that. Then, Golden Shockwave, the Azerite starts to turn back to normal. We go, "Oh fuck, we're free, we can fight." And then Zoval's like, "Ah shit, I've lost, fuck," and then gets desperate.
His just response to this epic moment is bollocks!
Yeah. Yeah, but more the idea of, no, you've doomed everything.
Yeah.
The countless eons of planning and sacrifice were for naught. And because, I mean, in the way, like, because what happens in the fight when that happens is he just goes, "Your world soul," or your world soul, no, sorry. "The soul of your world defies me, no matter." Something. And that's just so pointless, like, no matter? What the fuck? You're losing, dickhead. And then imagine if all of that, if you just actually felt that. We actually felt the moment happening, that turn of the tide, as opposed to it being just the Crown of Wills protected us before we went in, so we won.
So you could kind of make it have that little rhyme with the end of Wrath of the Lich King, but I think the difference then is the fight continues afterwards.
Yeah.
Into a final phase where you get a Zoval who maybe is now like fucking feral.
Broken mask, swinging like crazy, going, "No, my plans have fucking fallen apart. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you."
Yes, that would have been so much better than just the most
fight.
boring villain we've ever seen, and then his battery runs out in the cinematic while we're playing a flashback.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just got a whole other wave of how lame the ending of this expansion was.
Yeah. And I mean,
how was it so bad?
Yeah, because the immediate thing I think is, I guess they probably didn't want to go, "It's the MacGuffin in the middle of the fight." Because the Heart of Azeroth was, "It's the end of the fight. Fucking laser beam his off down." Because that felt shitty, because it was kind of an ass pull in a way. Even though it wasn't, because we'd planned it all. It felt like an ass pull because of the heart.
It was shitty because of the raid's lore being shitty.
Yeah.
They could have made it work if they had a better end cinematic and stuff.
Yeah.
Could have made it work.
Yeah, this is basically, if you wanted to Kinoify your game, just give me something. I'll tell you how to do it. I'll tell you, dude, I've spent so much long playing this fucking garbage. I know what people like. Oh, fuck.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Suddenly, every single end boss feels like the end of a shonen series.
Oh, fuck. Oh my God.
But it would have been cool if he went completely feral. Maybe he changed up his form a bit. I don't know. Anything to like mark that final phase a bit differently. Like, yeah, that would have been... It just would have been a cool phase transition.
Yeah.
I think phase transitions, we could get more from those as a certain other game proves.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very funny. I didn't even see any of this being added because I kind of fired this segment in, and I Dark Horse went, "Yeah, let's do this, but for BFA as well."
Okay, so let's see what's happened then for the carapace. So use your legendary cloak via an extra action button a couple of times throughout the fight. Fly back to Rathian, get your sanity back before going to the next phase.
Cool,
Then you use your Heart of Azeroth via the extra action button at numerous key points throughout the fight to gain your sanity back. But then in Mythic, you also needed to use your Heart of Azeroth to shut down bombs inside the Chamber of the Heart's secret Mythic phase.
That's cool.
Why couldn't we have been given the Crown of Wills for our ultimate confrontation against the Jailer and then had to use it at key points throughout the fight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, basically the point being we could have actually used this as some sort of game mechanic.
Even, you know the bits where...
it's like the Aegis of Agrimar, you give it to somebody, doesn't know how to use it, and then you die?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, not the Aegis, I was actually going to use an FF comparison because the Evilise raid, the Agrius fight, has you pick up swords and shields that are these cool fucking things that you use for specific reasons. There's a point where, like, the Crown of Wills, if it was maybe, some form of shieldy form, whenever you're body blocking the attacks on Azeroth, you could have literally had a bunch of people go and, well, maybe it goes to one player, or maybe we all have like fragments of it or something, but we could all just go and hold it up and try to block the domination effect. That would have been cooler than standing it.
I have to imagine they planned something like that, but then realized that this would totally fall down to the one player has just wiped the whole raid problem, that the raid was already per Blizzard's assessment played with.
Yeah, that's the thing where they definitely have, like, because they have it as it is, you need a lot of people to block the individual parts of it, and you need enough to block it all. So I think that's the idea of, you would want to do that, but give everyone the extra action button to do it. And then it would be like, okay, here's, when even then you've got, you know, a rotation of, because you do that with cooldown stuff all the time, right? You've got a rotation of a couple people need to go block it. So, you know, group 1 go block it this time, group 2 go block this time. And people are probably already do that tactically, just doing it more literally with, you have this item you use that feels cool.
And one
because
thing,
it's feeling cool is more important than gameplay.
Mr. Crispy wearing it would look absurd.
Yeah, well, that's where he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah,
that's probably where the Crown of Wills doesn't look absurd.
Yeah,
maybe this is the universe that this alternate reality is happening in, where the Crown of Wills doesn't just look like just a lump of metal.
Yeah, it would be nice if it was a little bit more, but then, like, you know, if it was designed for Bolvar's head, people would have known. But even then, it would have been kind of cool, even if it was the way it was, and then it just turned into a golden helm of domination when he held it because it was fit for his head or something.
I think the point perhaps is they need to think about why perhaps certain boss fights in that other MMO that has rating that Echo are playing in right now.
Not right now because MDI has destroyed them. But yeah.
Oh shit! Right. But just like some of the experiential element, like the big spectacle. Yep. And I think Blizzard really needs to work out how they can get a bit more of that super big spectacle into their fights.
Yeah, I mean
goddamn, playing the first wing of Myths of the Realms, like holy shit.
Yeah, I mean that's like honestly, you really need to go do the Evil East raids because they are something fucking else, man. But no, that's what that's something I've definitely realized, especially the past maybe year and a half or so. I've definitely realized that because I used to be a very gameplay first kind of person. I think all the gameplay stuff really matters and how you kind of get that across. And I always knew that feeling, as opposed to the literal reality of what's happening, was important. But the more I play worse games and enjoy them more, the more I kind of understand it's about the actual experience. It's never about reality. It's about what's happening in the person's the person's brain, in the person's heart, in the person's soul as you're experiencing something.
Mechanical gameplay is just one way to craft an experience.
Yeah.
Very important one, but
and I mean, as soon as you blend good mechanics with, especially when you have mechanics that are fun and they blend with actual context, actual storytelling, actual lore, the emotional side of stuff, that's where it feels great. I mean, that's the whole thing I came to when it came to the accessibility features in like Fallen Order or in Spider-Man or something, where button mashing, you can just turn that off. And obviously that's great as an accessibility feature, but people who don't have that as an accessibility like issue, people who are able to button mash and not hurt themselves or whatever else, should do that because that feels more like you're doing what you're doing. I think that's where people have through the whole 7th gen console, people really hated QTEs because QTEs were one button versions of what you would rather have was done in more gameplay.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the big important stuff of just, how people feel playing your game is more important than what they're physically doing. And you can have really cheap hacks to do that. Obviously, not saying this stuff wouldn't take some time and effort to implement. Train squeaking?
Train is squeaking?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't know if you heard that or not, but it's like, it may be a little bit of effort, but it's going to make it 100 times better. People are going to remember those moments forever. Yeah. The biggest example of this is Susano's sword in FF14. Big sword comes down, tank blocks it. Tank button mashes to hold it up. It's the fucking coolest moment in almost any video game of all time, as like just a tank, and just especially if you're a Dark Knight and you're holding it with, you're just, oh yeah, you're literally massive giant greatsword. I have a greatsword too. Fuck you. It's just the coolest shit of all time. And games, especially sometimes Blizzard games, really need to get that feel a bit more.
If you want to do things that are epic and cool, which Blizzard often wants, you actually need to be cool. And an example of Blizzard doing that essentially perfectly is the Warlords of Draenor opening cinematic.
Yep, that was
because
great.
That was just really cool.
Yep,
that was it, right? So I guess that's the energy that we really need.
Yeah, 100%.